Hello, YouTube. Okay, I have started to figure out some of the technical issues that I was having. So, third episode's a charm. By the fourth episode, I will have this all down pat. Okay, yeah, just something new. We're learning something new. This particular episode, good morning. It's morning here. That's why I said good morning. This particular episode is going to be on Body Talk. Soul to Soul Healing, the business here that I run, is a big advocate of Body Talk. And here's why. I told you, if you've watched my introduction, you may not have. My introductory video, I have spoken about some of the Body Talk, the journey I took with it and how I found it and everything like that. And I just want to get into a little bit on Body Talk and why we chose Body Talk and how Body Talk found us and how we found Body Talk and what it's done in our life. Okay, so Body Talk, I call it like the miracle healing. It's miraculous. It's very straightforward and it's very simple yet detailed and complex at the same time. And when so I'll simply retell the story. When I think I read the word Body Talk, got very curious. It's an energy healing modality. Does someone in my town here or community, do they practice Body Talk? I found it listed somewhere. I called the number. They're like, no, that lady doesn't work here anymore. She has her own practice now. And so they gave me her number. I called her, and it ended up being someone I had already met. I didn't know them well, but we were, acquainted with each other. And she used to live in the community, so what I'm talking about, like this small town, Saskatchewan, the rural area that I live in now. She used to live here, and then she moved to the city right next to us. Off to the big, bright city for her. Anywho, we came across each other's paths again, and she started doing Body Talk. And again, I mentioned that because I did know her, but not well enough, So we sit down, and I bring some situations. I'm like, here's what I'm dealing with. I cannot, work through or figure out, or I don't know what's going on. Can you please help me figure out these issues in my life, right? Or these situations. So we sit down and she does a Body Talk session, and she is finding things, knowing things, and understanding things that I have not told her. And I'm like, how do you know that? And I know, even by this point, this is like the first or second year, kind of thing that I'm doing this, and I'm understanding the whole intuitive nature of things. I understand, that it was intuition and bringing this information to her. And then that my body was speaking to her, right? But I got so curious that I'm just like, how are you figuring this out? Like, where are you finding this? And I got so curious, I actually looked it up, and I went and took the course for myself. I'm like, I need to know how she's doing this. And I found out. I took the course. Okay. So I have actually continued to see Body Talk practitioners my entire healing journey. It is one of, because there's many, 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 many. And I think I said this in the last one, or at least one of them, and I'm going to reiterate it again. I have participated in, done these sessions for myself, or had someone else done these, facilitated these sessions for me. I have done each and every one of these things in this past week, in this past month, in this past 6 months. I use all of them all the time. Like, whenever they seem relevant to the situation, or they're coming up, or they fit, or they're going to offer some relief to the situation or some shifting to the situation, that's the one I choose. So I have continued to participate in all of these modalities, and that's why I continue to offer all of them. Okay, so that being said, I continue to use BodyTalk. I had a BodyTalk not that long ago. I took my son to BodyTalk. I do have a story about my son and BodyTalk, and my whole family uses BodyTalk because it's so simple and it's so relieving, and it's very unintrusive in the way of I don't have to place my hands all over you, and I don't really feel like, if you go to a massage or do a Reiki or something, I don't really feel like that's super intrusive anyways. But this doesn't even have any of that. All I have to do is possibly hold your hand. I could use the muscles on your hand. But I came to realize, even in the class, I'm just like, at first we learned, to hold the person's hand. You can even put your hand on, their chest or like their solar plexus area to just kind of connect with them and to really, get a better connection and a better reading and a better intuitive sense from this person. And you just hold their hand and you do the muscle testing on, the hand of this person. And then when we were learning distance BodyTalk in the class, we actually used, what do they call it? Like a surrogate. And she had teddy bears for everyone. And we're all set up with our teddy bears, and we are doing the exact same thing on a teddy bear. And I was sitting there thinking, like, this teddy bear doesn't have muscles. I'm not actually connecting in with the muscles of the teddy bear or the muscles of the other human. I'm connecting with their energy. Whether it be in person or distance, I'm connecting with their energy. And then it's my muscles that are saying yes or no, because we're asking questions of like, is it this? Is it that? We're creating a whole formula. We're asking your body questions like, what's going on? And they will be yes or no questions. So it's simple, like, and there's a whole chart, there's a whole formula. The creator of BodyTalk, I find like a fucking genius. He brought a lot of the stuff that he already knew into this new modality, and he pieced it all together. And BodyTalk speaks to the physical side of things, which a lot of people, that's where they start to realize something's going on physically, right? There's a disease, an illness, something that they're uncomfortable in their body. Their body is reacting or responding in some way that they can't figure out. And so it speaks to the body, and it speaks to every single element of the body. And then it also speaks to the emotional side of it. It's got the emotions, it's got fear, it's got grief, guilt, sadness, happiness, joy. It's got all of the emotions. We can work through each or any or all of the emotions that come up that are tied to any of the situations going on. That are coming up for you. And it also speaks to the consciousness, the mindset, the belief systems that are held in the body, in the cells, in the mind, in your brains. And I say brains because there's the brain up here, the heart brain, and the gut brain. So anything that's stored in your body, in the brains, and the consciousness of your body, it speaks to that as well. And then it's got the spiritual aspect, even just the fact that it's an intuitive, it's an energy healing modality. It speaks to the spiritual concepts, right? And so it works on every single level of your energetic being. And it's so simple. So all we do is ask yes or no questions. Like I said, there's a whole formula, there's a whole chart, there's a whole thing that when you learn BodyTalk, that they will teach you. So as a practitioner, to offer it to you, all I do is I take this teaching, this learning, and I go through the system, and I just ask your body, and then that's it. So I use essentially my muscles. My energy speaks to your energy speaks to my energy, and my intuition, and it will create, so every person, every situation is so unique. It's so unique. And even every time you go for body talk, it will be a new situation, a new moment, a new thing. So even if you're dealing with the same subject or the same topic, it will find a different layer. It will find a different connection. It will find a different piece of the formula to continue to clear and to continue to move through it, which I feel like it just pulls out all of the miracles, all of the shifting, all the healing, all the transformation that we could receive through body talk. Okay. Yes. So I continue to do it to this day. Like, I continue to go to facilitators. Body talk and Reiki are probably my most asked for sessions. Of course, they were also my first ones that I started offering. So people are also familiar with that's what I do, and they're familiar with those. And the other ones I'm just going to have to just continue, to offer them and speak to them and teach people about them as well. They're just a little bit newer, and I started adding them in a little bit after the fact. Angels and angel readings, I have, and I do them separately, but I mostly just throw in like the spirit guide stuff with the Reiki, and then so I don't do that one as much. It's not, but it's so excellent. It's so excellent. As I mentioned, I still do it to this day. I do it for myself. I do it for others. It's just that if someone really, really wants a shift, they're more apt to go to a full body healing than just a little card reading. But it actually has been, it's been so phenomenal, the information that I received in the cards and the readings and the spirit guides. I'll give you guys miraculous, like, I'm not talking down to it at all. It's just that the people who are coming to me usually want a little bit more than just a card pull or an angel reading or to speak to their spirit guides. They really want answers. They really want that transformation. The Akashic Records is probably my third most popular. And again, it's one that I kind of added in the middle. People got really curious about it. And then it started being, and I do believe that the horses, I'm getting off on a little side note here. The healing with the horses is going to become one of my most popular, but because it's my newest, and because just as I was starting to offer it, I got pregnant, and then maternity leave, and then pregnant, and maternity leave. It just hasn't been out. It hasn't been offered as much as the other ones, but I do believe it's going to like jump to the top, as one of my most popular, and the mediumship as well. Again, it wasn't something I offered right away, but I'll speak to the mediumship. It was one of the later ones I took, and there will be a video coming on that. But so Reiki, Body Talk, and Akashic Records are right now, I guess in the past, 3 of the sessions that were the most popular that people really, really chose for really miraculous transformational healings. Okay, I will tell you the story. So, of my son. When I was pregnant the first time with my first son, some stuff was going on, and I was still working through some stuff, and it had nothing to do with being pregnant. Nothing to do. I didn't even know. Honestly, I didn't even know I was pregnant until 20 weeks. Like, I was almost 5 months in. 18 weeks, something like that. Like, it was later. And I guess there were signs, but I missed them because I was so caught up in this other healing and the other stuff that I was moving through, and I was creating my business. So at that time, okay, I'll tell you this story as I am, but I'm adding this piece in. At the time when I got pregnant, I was creating this retreat center. So I'm in the basement of our home right now, And the basement was completely untouched. It was cement floors. It was insulated walls. It was a complete foundation for our house, but it was completely unfinished. And so I was looking into finishing the basement of our home to create a healing room that you see me in now, and a retreat center right outside this door where I have a whole classroom and workshop area. And then just outside, again, I wanted to start offering the mediumship and the horse healing stuff. So that's what I was doing, so I was moving through all of this business stuff, and I was creating all of this home reno stuff, and I was doing all of this stuff, and I wasn't focused on me or my body or what was going on. I was pregnant when I finished in 2019 in October. I went to my final retreat for the horse medicine leadership program. And at that time, I didn't know that I was pregnant. And actually, that's kind of where like the horses were doing a bunch of stuff. And I'm just like, I think this message is for me. I think that one over there that's in heat right now, pregnancy was a huge theme. And they were all laughing. They're like, is it you? It's not me. Who is this message for? I didn't really tell anyone, but I took that. I told one of the girls in the class. And I guess two. I told two of them. I remember having the conversation. I traveled there with two of the other girls, and then we traveled back together. It was in BC. Anyways, doesn't matter. And that's where I remember having the conversation with them, sweet girls, and we were talking about it because I'm like, I don't know the first thing about being pregnant. And I will add in here, at that point in time, I didn't actually think that I could get pregnant. It had been like 5 years and I hadn't gotten pregnant, so I didn't really worry about it. And I'm just kind of like, nope, just, okay, it's like not a thing. I had surrendered to the universe. All right, not going to happen. And so that's kind of where I was just sitting. I'm just like, no, it's fine, whatever. But then all of this stuff started happening. Doesn't matter. So there I was at the retreat, all this stuff happening, and I was pregnant. Didn't know it. I didn't take those messages. I didn't go anywhere with that. I just kept living life. The point being is I was dealing with all of this other stuff. And so I was going to BodyTalk, and I was trying to clear up some of the other stuff that was coming up, going on, working on my business, working with my horses, doing all the things with the house and the renos and stuff. And then I found out I was pregnant. So all of that stuff kind of got put on hold. And then we went through the pregnancy cycles. So when I was pregnant, I continued on with BodyTalk the whole time I was pregnant. And then even at that point, I actually even... You know how labor can kind of be a thing? I signed up for BodyTalk. Like, I got the lady. She offered it. She said, this is a possibility. And I said, sure, I'll take that opportunity, right? So I signed up for her to do BodyTalk sessions during labor, to keep my body aligned, to keep my body, healed and healthy and moving through the labor. And thank God that she was there for me, because it was a bit of a thing. I mean, I was pretty good during it, but each and every time it was just like my water broke, and then I'm like, okay, let's move on with the labor, right? This is happening now. And that I was just accepting of that part of that situation. And then it turned out like, oh, your body's not progressing. And then it's kind of like, I could have like had a whole like, moment. But that's when, I had a BodyTalk session at that point, and she calmed my whole body and my mind and my emotions down. And then it was just like, okay, I'm fine. We're still fine. We're all good. And moving on to the next part. And so we moved on to the next part. And then it's just like, we did another body talk. And then they're just like, here we are. We're in phase 2 of this. And then they're just like going through the motions of it. And then they're just like, I'm sorry, like we're just monitoring this, but we're not seeing any progression. So like, here's phase 3. But like I did a body talk at that point because like, again, I can really start to freak out. Like, what in the hell is going on here, right? Universe, body, like this was supposed to be really easy, really simple. Just, kick this kid out and here we go. I know it's not that easy. But I believed in the ease of labor. So anyways, we moved into phase 3, and that was a C-section. And that, if anything, I was the most scared and fearful of having a C-section. I did not want to go into surgery. But again, we did the body talk session, and that calmed me, and it moved through any emotions coming up, any mindsets coming up, any belief systems, whatever. It shifted my energy. So I could easily and effortlessly go into the necessary stage of the C-section to save me and my child, right? Like, and it was beautiful. Like, that whole process could have been very traumatic. It could have been very emotional. It could have been very anxiety ridden. Really spiked the stress hormones and everything like that. And because Body Talk was there for me, the practitioner was there for me, and that opportunity was presented to me. Now, obviously, that's not the only time I do Body Talk for anything and everything, but I just thought that this was quite a unique opportunity to really believe in the system, right? Like, believe, not that I didn't believe before. It's fucking miraculous. Like, I cannot state that enough, how amazing this modality is, especially when you believe in it. I mean, I had no doubts. Like, I didn't know anything about it, but I had no doubts on it. I just allowed it to unfold from the very beginning. So my openness and my willingness, and actually practitioners, the other practitioners I go to, and the other teachers I go to, they're always, I'm not trying to brag, I swear. I actually find it kind of funny because I'm just being me. I just show up as me. And they speak back to me, and they are like, you are the perfect or the ideal client. You're the ideal client, and not the perfect student or anything, but you're like the ideal student. You like have so much openness, so much willingness, so much determination, so much commitment to it. And you just show up. You show up for you show up for your appointments, you show up for your sessions, you show up for class, you show up to learn, you know what I mean? Or you show up to change, you show up to heal. Okay, that's a side note. But that's what makes the optimal student or client too for the healings, just so willing and so ready to change these things. And I honestly just go and be like, I'm done. I'm ready for something new. I'm looking for the change. I'm looking for the shift. So yeah, I just think that the story of my pregnancy, my labor, and moving through it with Body Talk, and honestly, okay, so my second pregnancy and labor, my second child was born through cesarean as well. And that one went a little bit like this. The doctor told me that I didn't have to choose to do a cesarean. And so I said to the baby, I said, you know what? You have two choices. I'm going to pre-book a cesarean because we didn't know. Honestly, once you have one cesarean, I didn't know whether it was a choice or not to have a natural birth, or if my body, just wasn't capable, or something wasn't going to work to have the natural birth, that I would have to choose a cesarean again. So I didn't know. So I even went into even being pregnant, not knowing, but knowing that cesarean was definitely a choice. And so I told the baby, which I actually said, thinking or believing that even when I got pregnant, that the birth possibly, had to come out as a cesarean, I said, this child chose that was okay for him already. He chose my body and he chose me as a mother knowing that was okay already. And so then the doctor said I could do a natural birth. And I told the little one, I said, here's the deal. I'm going to sign up at 39 weeks for a cesarean, whenever they can fit me in, whatever, like the hospital or whatever the doctor's clinic can do for a cesarean to fit me in as an elective. Is that the right word? As a chosen cesarean. I said, if you want to come natural birth, you have to come out before that date. I'm not waiting for like 41 weeks or something. So you have to come out before the date. Otherwise, we're going in for a C-section. And you know what? I can't say he tried, but I had some false labor before that. And then, he came out perfectly healthy as an elected C-section. My point being here is that during the second C-section, if I would have had a BodyTalk on that morning, it was not traumatic. It was not bad at all. But if I would have had a BodyTalk or something to help me ease into that situation, it would have just been that much better. Because there was a little bit of, understandably, nervousness, right? Even though I knew what to expect, I never elected to do this before, right? It was like an emergency situation. I just had to roll with it. And like that day I was like walking in there like, this is my choice. Is this the right choice? There's that little bit of nervousness, like, how's this going to look? Like, what's going on? And you're totally just like, even in the first one, there's just those other pregnancy hormones helping you through that situation as well, right? That makes sense. So in this one, the labor hormones hadn't started, like none of that stuff was there either. It was just a completely different situation, even though it was the exact same C-section experience in the way of like medically, right? They went through the same steps. So I was familiar with the steps that they went through to have a C-section. Anywho, a BodyTalk really would have served me in that situation as well. But as I was saying, there are so many other times and places and spaces, and I wish I actually had other examples or other like, oh my God, kind of stories. But honestly, what has happened in my healing journey, I call them miracles. But they're like tiny miracles. They're like mindset shifts, emotional shifts. They have cleared out my past. They have healed my ancestry. So it's like this energy was in my situation before this moment. And then we did the clearing, we did the healing, we did the shifting, we did the appointment, the session. And then it wasn't. And then it just shifted. And it's these like minute, but tiny little moment sessions, tiny little mindset shifts, tiny little energy clearings. And I can't even say tiny. But then things build on each other. So if you tiny shift over here, then it's like, then it builds and then it builds and then it builds and then it builds. And then it's just like no longer in your life anymore. So something that was like, let's say like building to the negative. So it's kind of like, if you have the mindset, like, I can't do such and such, right? I can't, you build that up so high and your emotions increase and your mind, your thought systems and your belief systems, and they all kind of like build into this mountain that you can't move. So it's like this one tiny little clearing, this one tiny little shift. Then all of a sudden, like the mountains are moved. And then it's like easy, easy, easy. And it's just no longer a problem anymore, right? It's no longer a situation you have to deal with anymore because it's just shifted. It's just gone. or it's just cleared, or it's just, it's transformational, even though they're the tiny little things that I can't even really explain to you. It has helped in relationships. It's helped in abundance. It's helped in like abundance in all ways. Not just money, but like abundance in all ways. It's helped in my relationship with my horses. It's helped in my relationships with my family, my friends. It's helped in the relationships of self-love. That is a big one, like my worthiness and my self-love, which really relates to my confidence, right? My self-confidence and all of that. And it's just like, it takes one thing and builds on it, right? So that is how these sessions normally go, is these tiny little things. I just find that pregnancy story and the body talk, it just, it was kind of a big thing in the way of like, I was moving through something, but it didn't have to be traumatic. And in that moment, body talk was there. Instead of something traumatic happened, went to a body talk session, got it cleared out, like in the aftermath. And then it just was no longer a problem in my life. And that's how it could have been. Like, that's how it normally is. It's just kind of like, I went through something traumatic. Let's say I had gone through the pregnancy, the labor. And it was a bit more of a traumatic experience. It wasn't, but if it was, let's just, say this. And then I would have gone to the body talk afterwards saying, oh, this really caused, some stress. This really caused some emotions. This really caused a turmoil within my body, within my emotions, within my mindsets. I'm really, feeling down and out. I'm not feeling like myself. And then I would have gone to the body talk and we could have shifted it. And then it would just have we would have worked through it until it was cleared. And then it's just no longer a situation in my life. I actually don't think that I've told you this yet, so I'm just going to throw this in here right now. What I do is I tell my story. Okay, I know I've mentioned Crystal Andrus before in the whole ancestry thing, which is absolutely true. Another thing, the two big pieces that Crystal Andrus taught me way back in the day, which she has no idea that I was even her customer or client. I mean, I'm on her roster somewhere, maybe. One of the other things that she taught me, or that has continued to be a part of my journey, is telling my story. So here's what happens. It was at the very beginning of my journey. 2012. I do believe 2012. The same year I learned body talk. Very beginning of my journey. I had gotten her audios, gotten her online class or whatever. And she was going through this whole, I forget what the class was called, but it was a 12 day class or whatever. Anywho, I was going to say 12 steps. It's not the 12 steps, but she had 12 sessions, 12 calls. And anyways, at the beginning, she's kind of like giving some information and whatever. And one of the things that she was saying way back when was, she said, tell your story. Sit down and write your story. And so I did. In 2012, I sat down and I wrote my story. And I wrote it out. Like, I am female. I had so many sisters. I had, the parents, the community. This is where I grew up. This is what I learned. This is where I went to school. Like, anything and everything. I just wrote it out. And so what happens when you write it out is you become familiar. You bring it up. I mean, you're already familiar with it, but you bring it up. You bring it to awareness. When you write down, like, I went to school, da 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 da, right? These were my friends. You bring up kind of like your connection and the energy and the situation that happened way back when. So you just write out your story. Again, obviously you're familiar with your story, but you bring it up again. And so when I first did this exercise, I don't remember, 29? no, 28, something in my late 20s. Anyways, whatever. Something like that. My late 20s. And I had 40 pages of crazy. I had 40 pages of this was my friend and I can't believe this happened. And, like we went on this trip and this is how I got treated and, like on and on and on it went. Well, the second thing I did along with this is I'm talking about the same thing. What I did at this point, when I was writing out my story, I actually went to my photo albums and I pulled out my photos and I flipped through the albums one by one, and I have a lot. and I went through the pages, and that just kind of like brought up more memories. Oh yeah, I remember, that friend so-and-so. I remember I was part of that group, but only for a year. You know what I mean? And then you wrote it out. And so I flipped through my photos and I wrote my story. That was like 10, 11, 12 years ago, 2012 from 2023. Anyways, 11 years ago. What that looks like today, I've continued this practice and continued this practice and continued this practice. What that actually looks like today is I actually just write down the years. I was born in 1983, first year on my page. And then I just write them out. And I have one page of my story now because I've healed it. So what I'm saying in this story is, in this exercise, what happens is we bring all this stuff up. And it's like, those are the emotions that we need to process. Those are the mindsets. Those are the relationships. Those are the experiences. Those are the situations that we need to look at, that we need to say, that had an effect on me. So what happens is I have shifted through those. I've looked at them. I've gone through them. I have processed, like I was saying, like those relationships with those friends and those family members. If something did happen to me, let's say in like 4-H, if a friend said something, if a coach said something, if a teacher said something, if a family member said something, or not even just said something, or like acted towards me in some way, or like projected something onto me, or I had an uncomfortable experience, even my emotions, what emotions did I have in that situation? Those are very important. Those are like the most important, but usually this stuff happens in relationship with, right? And not even just then with 4-H, but like in school, in my community, in my family, with extended family or immediate family, in the household, like all the places. I brought up, my pets. I brought up, obviously the horses and all of that stuff. And I just brought it all up and I've cleared it. I've cleared all of the story. So it's not that I don't have those memories anymore. I have those memories, but they're clean memories. I don't hold resentment. I don't hold attachment. I don't hold, grief or sadness or despair or depression or anxiety about any of those things. So when I tell my story, and you know what, you guys, I think maybe this is coming up again because I'm just getting ready and actually, okay, hold on. Okay, I'm back. And if you're watching this, I have figured out how to merge these two videos together. I got cut off, so this is video number 2. I merged them together, and you're watching them here on YouTube. I wanted to finish this story, though. So I was talking to you guys about writing out your stories, and like I said, I pull out my photo albums, and I go through all the memories and all all of what's coming up for me, right? And I just go through all of the belief systems, all the feelings, all the thoughts, all the emotions that have come up from my past. And I've done this so much or so many times. I was doing it, like I did it the first time, I believe it was fall of 2012, doesn't matter, but like once or twice the next year. And like I got up to like 3-4 times a year. And then as I started clearing, as things were getting cleared, I didn't have to do it as much. So I've kind of backed off on it, but it's still a practice that I go to. And like, as I mentioned, it's gotten very simplified and there's not as much come up and not as much to go through, but there's still stuff. I actually just did this. And so I'm still going through it and I'm still working through it. So I did this the other weekend. Every year I go through all the photos of the year and I choose which ones I want to print out and put in the photo albums. So I did that and I was a couple years behind. They were all printed, but I didn't get them in the books. So I sat down and I started going through these photos and sorting them and stuff. And I said, you know what? There's other things that I could be doing right now, which is why they got put on the back burner to begin with. But I sat there, or I said, like, I think this is important because these are the years. During the last 3 years, it is 2023. I had 2 children, COVID, and I started, did this home reno, and I started, like adding in these new modalities. I started creating new business classes and new ways of doing things. And just all of this stuff happened in the last 3 years. Different relationships with family, different relationships, different healings, different things have gone on. And I said, I think it's time to sit down and write out my story. It's time to sit down and figure out what's coming up. What is the next thing going on? What is this underlying issue that I haven't figured out yet? And it was time to do that again. So I said, so I have to sit down and go through these photos, put them in the albums, and rifle through my photo albums again to figure out what's coming up, sit down, write out what's coming up, and figure it out. So that exercise is as important to me today as it was 10, 11 years ago. And it's been very useful and very helpful for me in my process and in my situations and for what's been happening in my life. So what happens is I now have this story. I now have all these feelings, all these thoughts, all these emotions coming up, all of these situations right in front of me, all of these memories. I just laid everything out on the table. And then I go to what now? Like, what can help me with this? What can help me move through this? What teacher, what mentor, what coach, what healer, what book, what program, what can I sit down and do, like what modalities? So can I, do, a meditation? Can I move through some yoga? Can I move through a BodyTalk? Can I move through like an Akashic record reading? Can I go out to the horses and really process with the horses? Each and every one of them will get you there. And each and every one of them will lead you to the answer. But I'm very intuitive, and I'm just like, in my situation, the universe, it's kind of like, there's no one right thing, right? So the universe will be like, oh, it's time to go out to the horses, time to sit down on your yoga mat, time to pull out, the big guns, time to, jump into a new course, find a new teacher, grab a book, step into the next level of it, step into the next level of either finding, not necessarily a new modality, but maybe a new teacher, new healer, new course, new program, new something like that, or step into the next level of BodyTalk processing, the next level of Reiki processing, next level of yoga processing, right? And they all help. And they're all so phenomenal, energy healing. And there's so many other options out there for you as well. Whatever you're called to, whatever you're led to, do that. Do that. That is what is exactly right for you in this moment at this time for this thing that you're moving through. And that's just what I do. So I wanted to speak to you about, and I wanted to finish that conversation about um, that, about writing out your story, about coming up with like, or finding awareness about what's coming up for you, finding awareness of what's going on underneath, and then bringing those things to the table, right? Is that where you need to reach out for a body talk session? Is that where maybe a different modality will help? Is that where you might need to sit a little bit and dig a little bit deeper into it for yourself, right? Is that where you need to find a new teacher? Is that where you need to find a new class, right? What can help you? What are you being led to do in this situation? Okay, all right. So that was the end of that story. Where do I want to go from here? I think as a conclusion, to wrap up this conversation on body talk, again, this is how I want to wrap this up. This is what I tell clients when clients come to me and I offer all of these different modalities and they are unsure of what to choose. I ask what's coming up for them. And if it's a body thing, it doesn't need to be. It does not need to be. It can be an emotional thing. It can be a relationship thing. It can be a money thing, a career thing, a purpose thing, a mental mind abundance thing. It can be any of those things. But if the main thing that they bring to me is a body thing, my stomach hurts, my knee hurts, my shoulder hurts, my neck hurts, I have headaches, I have tummy issues, I have chest pains, like lungs, it's hard to breathe, all of these different things. There's like my elbow hurts, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Your body talks to you, right? If they come with a body issue, the first one I turn to is body talk. So if you are dealing with a body issue, it's not necessarily the only thing that can help you. Absolutely not. It's not the only modality that can work through a body issue. But if you're uncertain of what's coming up underneath that body issue, that's when I like to lead them to body talk sessions. It just helps work out that crap. So what happens is your body holds on to, the cells of your body hold on to your emotions. Your emotions get stored in your body. Your thought systems, your belief systems get stored in your body. Your body, let me put it this way, your body is reacting to your emotions. Your body is reacting to your belief systems, your thought processes, your energy. So I'm not sure if I've mentioned this before. It's a thing. So like the cells in your body are always vibrating, right? Like they're always moving. There's a movement to each and every cell, each and every molecule, each and every atom. They're always moving. So each cell in your body is 99.99999% energy, and like, what would that be? Like 0.00001% of actual like physical molecule beings, right? Like it's a whole scientific principle of like physical or like air or liquid, right? Like those solid, that's the word. I'm not scientific at all. Like, please no. I'm not. I am way more woo-woo. I am way more sensitive, emotional, even airy, fairy, those kinds of things. I'm not scientific. It's not my... And half of me is not even practical. It's just like, I believe in miracles. So anyways, it's true. And I encourage you to believe in miracles as well. So anyways, the cells in our bodies hold on to the emotions, the thoughts, and all of that stuff. And so that's why there gets to be stuck areas or diseased areas or illness in our bodies is we create this illness, we create this reaction in our body from the thoughts and the emotions and the energies. So I have to even actually expand on like the energy about it, because our energy is actually influenced as well as from ourselves, as well as from our environment and those people and things that we surround ourselves with as well, right? The land we live on, the home we live in, the community we live in, the country we live in, the area we live in, what we have in our homes or in the space around us. It's affected by our friends or family member and all of that stuff. So our energy is what creates, and our bodies are reacting to, our cells are reacting to the energy that is within and surrounding us. So whatever energy that we hold, that's what our bodies are being created from. Our bodies are seriously just the vessel, the vehicle, the physical being that holds or houses our soul. Okay, so like we all know, like when people pass away, like their bodies, our physical bodies are still here, but their soul has left. Our souls are just the energy that animates the body. The body is just the physical molecules, right? And it's really our souls. Our souls cannot die. Our energy cannot die. Energy does not die. It just transforms. And so essentially we never die. Our spirit just moves on, right? It just transforms. So our bodies are just those vessels. Our bodies are just those vehicles. Our bodies are just the house, the physicalness that houses our souls. And our bodies are just only responding to, our cells are only responding to the energy that is within us and surrounding us. So with that all being said, we can easily shift and move through any illness, any physical situation that's coming up in our lives. Yeah. So if people come to me with a physical issue, this is the first place I lead them to. That being said, like as I mentioned, it's not the only one. Reiki is phenomenal. All of them are phenomenal. But as I mentioned, I just find that the people who focus on the body in that way are looking for a shift in the body, which again, they'll all do. But the person is not concentrating on their emotions. The person is not concentrating on their belief systems. The person is not having a spiritual breakdown, like a dark night of the soul or something. If they were having something such as that, I might say, hey, let's go to the horses and see what's going on. Let's do a Reiki or an Akashic record reading and read your soul, right? And see what's going on. Let's get back in touch with that soul. So if they really want to do a reading of the body, let's talk to the body. Okay? Awesome. I am going to leave it at that. I have so much more to say. Again, you can find me obviously here on YouTube, many more to come. But you can also find me, and I'm not even sure I mentioned, but you can read it here on YouTube. My name is Roxanne Vallier. Hi, and welcome to my YouTube page. I suppose this would be my YouTube blog. So then my blog is The Little Filly Who Couldn't Be Broke. And I've talked about that on my introduction about going through the dark night of my soul and really bouncing back from it. You know what I did? I told my story. I wrote out my story over and over again, and I went through my story. I did ancestral healing. I did all of the things. And I got me here, and my spirit, my soul, you can't break my spirit, man. Anywho, you can find me at soul2soulhealing.ca. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Twitter. I do believe I'm just not active on Twitter. I think that it's linked to my Facebook account. So if you are a Twitterer, you can find me on Twitter, I'm pretty sure. They're all on my website. So you can go to my website. There's also a blog there. You can sign up for my newsletter. Yeah, all the things. You can find me all the places. Oh, and my podcast. So like I actually have like a voice podcast. So you can, anywhere that you listen to podcasts. You know what though? If you've watched YouTube podcasts, they're going to be very similar. I'm going to either repurpose content or like the topics are all going to be the same. Even if I'm not using the same like voice recording or video recording, the topics are all going to be the same. So I'll probably be speaking about the very similar things. But there's so much other stuff on my other things. So yeah, you can find me over there. Yeah, there's lots of other places. Go check it out. Go check out my offerings. They'll be on my website. And I believe they're also listed on Facebook. Yeah, go check it out. Okay, awesome. See you guys later and many, many, many more videos to come.